What's up, guys? LQ here with the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, and TV shows. And I'm going to start a series throughout October on the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I'm a huge fan of the Nightmare movies. I love them. I even like the bad ones, right? When I was young, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors was the first horror movie that I rented on VHS from my local Blockbuster. And I was hooked. I thought Freddy was scary, entertaining, funny. I thought Freddy was a fantastic villain. Nightmare on Elm Street was my gateway to the world of horror. Because of Freddy Krueger, I discovered Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, the Leprechaun, Chucky. I discovered all of them. But Freddy was the one that I first discovered. And I've never reviewed these movies on this channel, so I'm going to review them now. So the series is going to start, obviously, with A Nightmare on Elm Street. When I'm watching ranking videos of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, usually this is considered the best one. Sometimes people will put Dream Warriors ahead of this one. I know I would. But usually this one is the best one. And from a strictly technical movie making standpoint, there's probably truth to that. This is not my favorite Elm Street movie, though. It's not even my second favorite Elm Street movie. I'm going to do a ranking when I'm done reviewing all these individually, but it's not even my second favorite Elm Street movie. And when I say favorite, I base it strictly off of entertainment value. Which ones do I go back to most often to watch? And it's not this one. This one is down on the list. Not too far down, but down on the list. There's a few, two or three ahead of this one. And that's because the other movies that are ahead of this one, I go to more often to watch. If I'm in the mood for Freddy Krueger, I go to a different one. That's not to say that I don't love this movie, because I do. There's a ton to like in Nightmare on Elm Street. It establishes who Freddy Krueger is. But from a strictly entertainment value standpoint, I don't find it to be the most entertaining of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Let's talk about what I really love about it. Okay, they establish who Freddy Krueger is. I think that Freddy Krueger is a scary, scary concept. He wasn't always scary in the movies. There were some movies where he wasn't scary. But the concept of Freddy will always be scary. And Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund does such a good job of portraying this character. And in this first movie, they were establishing who he was. So Freddy would change over time from who this character is in this movie. He's less quippy in this movie, making less jokes. The dreams are obviously meant to be a little more scary and a little less, visually gimmicky. And because of that, I think a lot of people look at this movie and they're like, this is the scariest one. And again, there might be some truth to that, this being the most scary one. But Robert Englund does a great job at establishing who Freddy Krueger is and what he's doing. Another great piece of this movie is obviously Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson. Heather is Nancy. Heather, she went on to have a career in film, but never really burst onto the scene in a way that made everybody forget about Nancy Thompson. Heather Langenkamp is Nancy Thompson. And Nancy, has only appeared in two movies. Heather has only appeared in two movies as Nancy. She played herself in New Nightmare, but she only appeared in two movies as Nancy. So to say that she is Freddy's primary, the primary protagonist, or Freddy's primary antagonist, however you want to phrase it, may not be entirely correct. There's a part of me that wants to say that Lisa Wilcox's Alice is Freddy's opposite, is Freddy's primary antagonist or primary protagonist, however you want to phrase it. But I think most people are always going to go back to Nancy, even though Nancy wasn't guarding the positive gate like Alice is. I think most people are going to go back to Nancy as being the one that beat Freddy. And Nancy is a great final girl, and she does a great job in this film. Another thing that I really love about this is that first kill that we got, Tina. It established so many rules in Nightmare on Elm Street, and just the carnage of it, the visual appeal of it, dragging her up the wall, then dragging her onto the ceiling and killing her on the ceiling. It was one of the most impactful kills in the whole series. One of the most impactful kills in all of slasher films. The death of Tina. In fact, it carried so much weight that it was the scene was repeated in New Nightmare, because it was one of those scenes that just sticks with you. The end of the film also establishes that Freddy can be brought out of the dream world into the real world. A format that has been used in later movies, ways to defeat him. So this film, while it's not my favorite, it does such a great job of establishing the rules of this world, establishing who Freddy is, and establishing some of the concepts that would be used in later movies. Some of the things that I didn't care for in this movie, I didn't care for the ending. I think it tried to establish a sequel that they ended up going in a different direction with the sequel. But yeah, I didn't care for the ending. I kind of wish that they would have just left it with Nancy taking control and Freddy disappearing, and that being the end of it. I understand why Bob Shaye made the decision he did to tack on that scene at the end, but that scene didn't work for me. The next thing that I don't care for is maybe not the movie's fault. This movie establishes a pacing that has been repeated in several other slasher films. If you watch the first Scream, the pacing of the first Scream is very reminiscent to the pacing of the first Nightmare on Elm Street. The pacing just seems very familiar to me. Now, I've often told people that when you're watching older movies and there's some movie tropes in those movies, well, those tropes exist because of this movie, not because of the fact that they were using movie tropes. But for whatever reason, when I watch this film today, just the overall pacing of it doesn't quite keep me fully engaged throughout the full film. So I love this movie. I love it. I love most of the Elm Street movies. But it's just not my favorite. So feel free to bash me in the comments down below. I can take it, because I'm sure that most people, it is their favorite. Wes Craven is a genius, and R.I.P., right? I love Wes Craven. So let me know what you thought of the first Elm Street movie in the comments down below. While you're down there commenting, subscribe to my channel, and until next time, we'll see you guys later. And I'll get the rest of these videos out throughout October. Thanks, guys.